Hello, this is a third part of the Chunkloading rant, and today I'm going to cover the issues regarding the order of entry sticking and block entry sticking. But first, let me explain what the actual order is. So entries are ticked in the order in which they are stored in the entry ticking list, and they get added to said list in the order of their creation or in any way being added to the entry processing area. For example, if I place one entry after another, then the first one gets added to the entry ticking list before the other one. Uh, the same holds true for loading entries into the world. They are added to the ticking list in the same order they were stored in a chunk. Uh, Another thing you should know is the order in which the entries are stored in a chunk. Entries are always stored per subchunk. Each subchunk has its own entry storage, and subchunks are ordered from the bottom to top. This means that entries from a subchunk below will always be added to the ticking list before the entries from the subchunk above that. And the relative order within the same subchunk will depend on the order in which the entries were added to the subchunk. So, what's the problem with the order itself? Here I have a contraption that detects the entry ticking order. Uh, to be more precise, the relative ticking order of these two entries. Currently, the top entry ticks first because I placed it first. How does it work? When I trigger the node block, the piston moves, which redirects these dusts which power the comparators. Then in the entry phase, when each of these entries handles its interactive collisions, they collide with these detector rails, which update the comparators in the order in which the entries are ticked in, and then the order is passed to pistons, which visualize the order. If I place the bottom entry first, and oops, I broke a block, you can see that the bottom entry ticks first. So what's the issue? You would expect the order, in this case top to bottom, to stay consistent. However, if I reload the chunk, the order swaps. Now it's bottom to top. Uh, why did it happen? That happened because this contraption is placed on a subchunk border. Thus, upon the chunk being loaded in, it first dumped all of the entries from this subchunk into the ticking list, then all of the entries from this subchunk into the ticking list, and it just ditched all the ticking order. It just doesn't remember it. It only um, uses the order in which they were stored in, not their old ticking order. Um, there is another issue that can lead to the swapping of the ticking order between entries, and that can happen even if they are both in the same subchunk. Uh, that can only happen if they ride each other. And first, let's observe uh, the order in which they are stored in within the subchunk. Here I have a contraption that is fully contained within a single subchunk, and within it I have two entries, two villages. Uh, the top one is riding the bottom one. So the bottom one is his vehicle. Uh, and the top one was added to the subchunk first. Thus, processes that try to interact with these two villages simultaneously will always consider the top villager first. For example, this fence gate, upon being moved, will collect villages around south, collect this one first because it's stored first, then this one, and upon being moved, they will trigger these tripwires in the order in which the villages are stored in within this subchunk. And as you can see, as the top villager was added to the subchunk first, it is stored the first, and it triggers the string first. However, if I reload the subchunk, the order in which they are stored in swaps, because now the bottom villager triggers the bottom string first. Why is that? That happens because upon being unloaded, their order is still the same, top to bottom, but upon being loaded, the passengers of every vehicle are loaded recursively. Thus, no matter when the passenger was supposed to be loaded, it is loaded within the action that loads the vehicle. Thus, when this villager was loaded, only after that the top one was loaded. Thus, their order swapped. Um, and this change in the order in which they are stored in also translates to the order in which they are ticked. Here is an example. This contraption is again fully contained within a single subchunk, and within it I can show you two villages. Now the top one is not riding the bottom one, and the top one was spawned first. Uh, and as you can see, the top one is ticked first. If I reload the chunk, as they are not riding each other, as you can see, the order doesn't swap because they are in the same subchunk. They aren't riding each other. Watch what happens if I make the top villager mount the bottom one. Now the top villager will be ticked within its vehicle's tick, and that is expected, because the passengers are always ticked within their vehicle's tick, no matter what the original order within the ticking list is. Moreover, if I make the top villager dismount its vehicle, then their ticking order reverts to the old one, where the top one is ticked first, because their relative positions within the ticking list didn't change. When a passenger is mounting its vehicle, it's skipped when iterating through the ticking list and is ticked within the vehicle's tick. Thus, the change in the ticking order while the one is riding another is temporary. And it is expected that when the passenger dismounts the vehicle, they revert to their old ticking order. However, watch what happens if I make the top one mount the bottom one and reload the chunk while the top one is riding the bottom one. Now, as I explained before with the bottom setup, the order in which they were stored within the subchunk got swapped, and upon being loaded, the order in which they were added to the ticking list also got swapped for that reason. And now, no matter if they are riding or not riding each other, the bottom one is always ticked first because it got added to the ticking list first. Thus, their ticking order got irreversibly swapped too, which is annoying. So that's it for the entries. And now about block entries. As you might already know, block entries are stored in a hash map per each chunk. And as is with any hash map, the order in which they are stored in might rehash and become almost unpredictable upon changing the contents of said map. So if I add more block entries to the subchunk, then the hash map that stores the block entries can get rehashed, and the order in which they are ticked can unpredictably change. However, it is even worse in a real case. You don't even need the extra block entries to be added to the chunk for the order to change. The order can just change randomly upon reload. For example, here I have a contraption that detects relative hopper ticking order. How does it work? When I press the input, it unpowers this hopper, which then transfers the item to the dropper, which updates the comparator, which passes the order to the command log. Same thing here at the bottom. Here is another hopper, which at the same timing will update this command block, which will print a message to the chat. Currently, their ticking order of relative ticking order of these two hoppers is bottom then top, and between reloads it stays consistent. However, if I reload the chunk, the order in which they are stored in can scramble, and thus upon being added to the structure that holds the block entries to be ticked, their order will also swap, and now they are ticked top to bottom. And this is, well, very bad for a lot of storage tech or for flying machines, because those consist of block 36s which are taking block entries. And this has been an issue in the game for a very long time. So yeah, uh, till recently, I myself didn't know that the relative ticking order can swap without ever changing any block entries within the chunk, but turns out it can. So yeah, that's it for today's video. There are a couple more to go. I hope I will release them soon enough. Uh, that's it. See ya.